Edward was a school teacher. Straightforward, gentle, and lost in his books. Margaret was a librarian, sweet in conversation, playful in her eyes, and filled with dreams in her heart. Their first meeting happened during a discussion about a book. Edward said, "Shakespeare was a dreamer." Margaret smiled, "No, he was a mirror." That discussion turned into a friendship. Friendship turned into love. They got married, and made a small house in London a paradise. They had 2 children, a son, David, and a daughter, Emma. Every Sunday, the family gathered. Margaret would cook something special, and Edward would tell old stories to the children. The house echoed with laughter, and the walls bore witness to love. The children grew up, completed their education, and settled into their own lives. David started working at a bank in America, and Emma got married in Manchester. Edward and Margaret's house started to become quiet. They were together, but lived in empty rooms, with empty gazes. One day, Emma called, "Mom, send Dad to my house, his joint pain is getting worse." David also said, "Mom, let her stay with me for a few days, so she doesn't feel lonely." Thus, Edward and Margaret were separated for the first time. Margaret was busy with Emma's children, but her heart was with Edward. Edward sat alone in David's flat, looking at old pictures, and repeating one sentence, "Tell Margaret, not to forget her tea." This separation wasn't just for a few days. Years began to pass. They were kept apart for various reasons, sometimes for no reason at all. Margaret's voice started to tremble over the phone, "Edward, did you have lunch?" Edward replied, "Yes, but it didn't have your touch." One day, at Emma's house, Margaret was told, "Mom, you should go stay with Dad for a few days, we need to plan a vacation." And then at Edward's house, "Dad, Mom's health is getting worse again, you should take her with you." Edward and Margaret seemed to have become a package. Shifting from one place to another, not for themselves, but for the ease of others. One cold December evening, Margaret suddenly felt dizzy. Her memory started to fade. She was admitted to the hospital. The doctor said, it could be the onset of Alzheimer's. David called Edward. Edward's heart trembled. "Margaret, in the hospital?" "And I'm here." He insisted, clasped his hands, and reached the hospital. Margaret regained consciousness and looked with blurry eyes, "Edward, is that you?" Edward held her hand, "Yes, Margaret, it's me, and I will never leave again." Tears welled up in Margaret's eyes. "I've seen you once again, now I am at peace." That moment was the quietest and the most elevated moment of their lives. Margaret's health didn't improve. 2 days later, she passed away. Edward sat by her bedside and said just one sentence, "Now, no one will separate us, Margaret." 3 weeks later, Edward's breath also fell silent. Those who lived for each other. In old age, their own people kept them apart. But love knows no distance, neither time, nor humans, nor death.